Everybody, welcome. It's a nice Saturday in Nashville. It's kind of overcast. Hopefully the rain won't come on for a while. There's a bunch of stuff going on today. Tomato Festival in Nashville, and Silence the Violence rally over at Hadley Park. There's a bunch of stuff happening. I hope everybody stays safe. Our guest today is Vivian Wilhoite, who is the assessor of property for Nashville and Davidson County. Vivian, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you, Jim? Good to see you. Mayor, excuse me, Vice Mayor.
I am fine. You can call me whatever.
Okay, whatever.
We go back a long time. We served on the council together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while we're letting people in, Vivian, I usually ask, obviously, some type of non-relevant question. Behind your left shoulder, you have a giant seal of Nashville and Davidson County.
Yes.
That is bigger than you are. Where'd you get that?
Well, I kind of inherited from my predecessor, and so glad that I did, because it says a lot about our office in reference to who we are committed to serving, Nashville, Davidson County, no doubt about that. And so that's where it came from. So I'm loving it. And we also have a large seal of the state of Tennessee, which also says a lot about our office, meaning that we're governed by the state in reference to what we do, evaluating property, taxable properties for that matter.
Yeah, well, that seal, we need to find one. I don't know if we, as many times since I've been in the council chamber, there's got to be a seal up there someplace, and I need to find one. And if we can't find one, we're just going to come borrow yours for the council.
Okay. Hey, just as long as you bring it back. Why not?
And a moving truck for that thing is so large.
Hey, let's save the taxpayers money. Come in, let's go ahead and borrow it, bring it back, and we'll just, let you use it. So let's save them some money. I'm all for it.
I think that's fine. We'll try not to mess it up. We'll try not to color it or anything. So tell me before we get started, we'll start in just a second. Where are your offices? I mean, I know, but just tell everybody else where your offices are.
Absolutely. Well, Old Nashville will probably see this location as Howard School Building, okay? Because this is where the old Howard School Building was years ago. I'm not from Nashville, but I'm familiar with that Howard School Building the Howard School was here. So we're located on the campus of the Fulton campus, which was named when we were in council, right? Jim, you remember that? So so we're on the Fulton campus, which is where the Howard School used to be located. I am located right in the center of the campus, along with my colleague, the Honorable Brenda Wynn, and my colleague, Erica Gilmore. And we're in the Howard office building, which is what they call this building particularly, which is located at 700 2nd Avenue South. The great thing about this location is that as soon as you get off the expressway, you're right here. So you don't have to deal with the traffic of downtown or anything like that. It's immediately off of the exit ramp, which I wish I could give you the number, but it's immediately right as you hit 2nd Avenue, coming from either direction. And great location for people to come and take care of business, whether they're getting their permit, which is in one of the opposite buildings, whether they're getting something from Metro Water, which they have one of their smaller departments in the building where the planning department and the codes department is located. And so, of course, you can also come here, which is great, to go and visit, like I said, my colleagues, to get your car tags or to pay your taxes or what have you. So it's a great location. I like it. And we don't have, and then citizens don't have to deal with the traffic. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right. Now that everybody knows where you are, we're going to start our program with Vivian Wilhoite, who is our assessor of property for Nashville, Davidson County. We have a couple of guests on. You mentioned Brenda Wynn, who you share a building with. So Brenda Wynn, our county clerk, is on, and Judge Amanda McClendon is on. And Judge McClendon. So it's Judge McClendon. Amanda used to be on the Metro Council as well. So
good morning, everyone.
There's the judge right there.
That's my judge right there.
I think the world of the both of you. Thanks for letting me hang in.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. And Brenda Wynn just said a good morning to everyone. So we welcome everybody.
Good morning. How you doing?
So let me ask you a question, Vivian. We've done we go back a long time, but for people who don't know you personally, and I think most people do, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Don't talk about being assessor of property. We'll lead up to that. But
Okay.
where you're from, what have you done in your career that has led up to being in this office right now?
Okay, well, great. First of all, thank you, Vice Mayor Jim Schulman, for inviting me to be on this morning to talk about, all things assessment, and Vivian Wilhoite. I do appreciate that. This is a great opportunity. I'm so glad to see a lot of my friends here on this call and I'm really nervous because one of my favorite groups is also on here too as well, the Nashville Women Breakfast Club. So all of that is kind of making this real, real hard for me, but I'm going to try to make sure that I do not embarrass all of my viewers here. Well, I'm from Gulfport, Mississippi, which is a coastal town at the very bottom of Mississippi. A lot of people don't realize that, yeah, Mississippi has a coast, and we call it the world's best kept secret. I'm the daughter of Teresa Bell and Archie Parker. It's my mother's second marriage. I reigned as Vivian Michael when I came to Nashville. And I came to Nashville as a result of a pretty incredible family. Homer Wheaton, who is retired as the vice president of Tennessee State University, invited me up to say, hey, choose Tennessee State University. And so I did, and I'm glad that I went to TSU. I mean, TSU has given me the groundwork in reference to advocacy, has given me groundwork in reference to helping people. And that's where I started in being on the Student Government Association as the vice president, freshman class, sophomore class, rep at large, all of that, and did a lot of protesting on the Hill with the late Frederick Humphreys, who was absolutely phenomenal as well. But at TSU is where I got the opportunity to be able to be a part of a program at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And at that program, I worked as an intern, I worked in the valuation department. Crazy, okay? And in the valuation department, the HUD office receives appraisals from their appraisers who were vendors for the U.S. government. I became interested in those reports, and once I began to become interested, I was bitten by the bug. I said, okay, I want to be an appraiser. There was a job on the wall in the Career Center, and it says appraiser, that was opening at the Tennessee Public Service Commission. And from there, I took that announcement down to make sure nobody else was able to know about the opening in there.
Wait a minute. So you took a job posting and hid it from everybody else. Is that right?
Not only hid it, I took it down and kept it. And
all right.
Everything. Yeah, I wanted that job. I said, and the Lord said too, yes. I said, that's my job. And it was my job. And okay, so who played a role in helping me get that job? Bill Boner, he was awesome. Julius Sloss, he was awesome. And the three commissioners who were elected by the state of Tennessee at that time, Middle, West and East Tennessee, you got Steve Hewlett, you got Frank Cochran, and you got Keith Bissell. So went to work for them as an appraiser. It was phenomenal. I was in charge. I was appraising, or they started me out with cell towers, and then I went on to do transportation facilities and what have you. So all of that kind of played but definitely played a major role in me saying, I want to be an appraiser and ultimately the assessor. So coming forward, full forward to sooner in the future, I had the opportunity to serve with people like you and Council Lady Amanda McClendon and so many others to learn more about government and to learn about Nashville. It was unfortunately through the passing of many leaders that made Nashville strong and made Nashville for what is known today as being vibrant as it is. I learned through some of their passing, unfortunately, like Justice Birch and McAllister, who's a council member, various leaders like that. I learned about how Nashville became to what it is today. So it's been pretty amazing ride, and I love it. And of course, with me becoming the assessor, I had that in my mind when I was on the Metro Council. See, you didn't know that, Jim. You didn't know that.
I didn't. No.
That I was really interested in becoming the assessor. Now, I did run for a couple of offices up to that point, because I felt that my commitment as a council person should go the full span of the 2 years that I could, of the 2 terms that I could run. I began to consider it around the first term, and then I began to say, you know, really, I've let the people of District 29 know that I am a leader that is going to be accessible. And I think that's, you know, basically how, you know, I came to be defined as being an accessible leader, being the one that's approachable and be able to get things done. So I decided I needed to go ahead and do the second term. Why not? You know, that is what I'm supposed to do. That's the commitment I made to the people of District 29 and the people of Davidson County. Did that. And then I said, okay, now I'm going to set my sight on the assessor of property. And during that time, I continued to work at the Public Service Commission, which later on became the Tennessee Regulatory Authority. I was still doing appraisals and of various properties that are of the gas, water, electric, and for-profit utilities and telephone utilities. Definitely, you know, sharpening my craft. I was not in the administrative part of it because I was an appraiser. I had a fabulous boss named Barry Murphy and Gary Harris that did an awesome job in helping me learn all about appraisal. It was enough to make me dangerous, I would say. You know, of course, since I've been here and as the assessor of property, I rely on my incredible staff. They are awesome. They are, they know exactly what they're talking about. They know how to do the work. And it has helped me to be a leader, to provide the tools to help them be able to do their work even better. We want Nashville to trust our product. We want Nashville to have a trust in the value that we provide and be transparent in the fact that we want Nashville to appeal their values if that was the case. So it's been a great and wonderful journey to this point. And I'm looking forward to what next can come.
Well, tell me, okay, so you're the assessor of property. For people who don't know what your office does, generally, what do you do? What is the office? What do the people in your office do on a regular basis? And what are your responsibilities under state law?
Okay. Well, under state law, we are responsible for the appraisal of all the taxable properties in Davidson County. And that's key, taxable properties. That means that we don't appraise and assess churches or hospitals. Well, of course, only if they are exempt by application. We do not appraise schools, but all taxable properties in Davidson County. We establish a fair and equitable value, particularly in the year of the reappraisal, which occurs every 4 years in Davidson County. We establish that value, and that value is at market value in the year that we do the reappraisal. Now, once the reappraisal has been done and you've been provided your value and the opportunity to appeal your value, and us getting the opportunity to share with you how we arrive at the value, that value stays the same for the next 4 years. So on the most part, what we do, we appraise and assess the more than 264,000 parcels in Davidson County and growing, because, you know, you're not making any, you know, God's not making any more land, but people are subdividing land constantly through the planning department. So we appraise those taxable properties for ad valorem tax purposes. And that is in a nutshell what we do, but it's so much more goes into that allows, that provide for other functions of our office.
All right, so take it one step at a time in the sense of, all right, so we have 264,000 parcels.
Yes.
And gaining probably.
And yes, absolutely.
So take a 4-year period. So most people, I think, would understand that we do a reappraisal every 4 years.
Yes.
And we can talk a little bit later about how that plays into what the mayor and the council do in terms of taxes and everything else like that.
Absolutely, yes.
But for your purposes, your office, when did they start doing kind of the reappraisals? Because you can't do 264,000 pieces of property in 1 month.
That's right.
So
yeah,
how does all this play out so that every 4 years we have kind of a reappraisal of what our property is worth?
Well, there are some counties that do the reappraisal every 5 years. Some counties do the reappraisal every 6 years. So how it started out with us choosing 4 years was some years ago before I was born. How about that? And, you know, Davidson County chose 4 years. And I would say that I'm thinking of the assessor who was very, other than Mr. Jimmy Clary, was very instrumental in reference to how we got to the 4 years. Clifford Allen, exactly, Clifford Allen, the assessor. He was a representative at the state of Tennessee, and then he became the assessor. Or I can't remember if he ran for the assessor. He was a representative first and ran for assessor. But it was Clifford Allen that Assessor Clifford Allen that established the 4 years, every 4 years that we do the appraisal. And it was also Clifford Allen that established that we run for reelection in the year of the presidential election, which is a good thing because of the fact you want to have someone who is knowledgeable or have a handle of the office and its responsibilities, and hopefully not, have someone new going in if they're doing a pretty good job. But with that being said, the State Board of Equalization allows us to choose what number of years we'll do the reappraisal. I like to even add that right now that one of our fellow counties, Shelby, is looking at doing reappraisal every 2 years. We're looking at that as well. It's going to require a large portion of increase in of human resource in our sense to get that done. And then maybe it may change around to reduce the human resource, but the whole objective in reference to doing a reappraisal is to establish the value, the market value of property in a particular year. By doing it every 2 years, you're more closer to market value by doing it every 2 years. And it also affects other things like sales ratio, and I won't go into those details. They're very important to the city's budget. And with that being said, we are now still at the every 4 years. And what's critical about the 4 years, well, let me go back to something else. When the first time that the Davidson County had established a reappraisal, it was before consolidated government and all that. And it was done like a whole full 10 years. The tax rate was very high as a result of it because they were just getting started. So now we're beginning to see, of course, something a little bit different. People are saying that the taxes have gone up. Well, not necessarily. Values have gone up. It is values have gone up, not the tax rate. You know yourself, Vice Mayor, that the tax rate that Davidson County enjoys right now is the third lowest in its history. And then in 27, and then prior to that, we had the lowest tax rate in Davidson County history, going up from 2013 to 2017. 2018, because the tax rate got changed and increased. So it's been an interesting process, as I would say, as arriving to what we do, how we do it, and how often we do it.
Okay. All right. So again, your folks go out and have to make an appraised value of a piece of property.
Absolutely. And one of the things you were just asking, when does it start? I'm sorry, I just remembered that you said.
That's okay.
We've started already for the 2024 reappraisal, 2025, excuse me. We've already started. It takes us at least 3 years to do all of our visual inspection of all those parcels and the new parcels and the new improvements and the improvements of the residential, improvement of the commercial. It takes us about 3 years to get that done. And even then, sometimes we say it's not enough time. So I'm going to go ahead and just say to you, we need more employees. So think about that in the next budget. I'll put that out to you, okay, for the one that you break the tie on. How about that?
Okay, thank you.
But my point is that we have to do the visual inspections because the law says so. The law requires us to do so, the state law, not the local law, but the state law. And it's in that final year of the 4 year span that we do all of our calibration of all of the models, because we're doing mass appraisal. We're not doing a fee appraisal. A fee appraisal is an individual appraisal that, if you're trying to get a lower tax rate, or if you're trying, a lower mortgage rate, or if you just want to refinance in order to get money out of your largest investment that you probably make in your lifetime, buying your home or buying your business, you may want to refinance to get money out of that property. The reappraisal for that type is done by the bank or done by an individual person that comes out to do the valuation and does full inspection of your home. A mass appraisal, which is what we do of taxable properties, is when we look at mass amount of property. I mean, exactly what it says, mass appraisal. We're doing a large group of properties all at one time. And so taking that 4-year span, we have to measure and list now those improvements. And we then utilize the models in order to apply a factor to the increase to bring it up to market value of where it would be today between the arm's length buyer and seller, or what a value would be on that property. So that is, a lot. And it is a lot. It's critical. I mean, and it's a lot of work that goes into that. But when we're establishing those models and ensuring that we get to a statistical number of 1, and that's all another deal of statistics, and get into that number of 1, it's so very important that we get it right.
Okay. All right. So drill down a little further into
Sure.
How many employees do you have that actually go out and appraise property?
Okay. How many employees do we need? Well over 100.
Well, I didn't say that. I said how many? Do you have?
Okay. But we have about 80 employees. We have a couple of vacancies that we are, we're working on filling because of the critical work that is being required of us even more so. So we have about 80 employees, let me say it that way. And in the departments that we have, departments of the deeds department, that's where we receive all of the sales in reference to various properties and the exchange of property between willing buyer and willing seller. So we have to know who owns the property. We have the Department of the Customer Service when you walk in case you want to get information regarding your property. And of course, to help us with what we got going on now. And that is the appeals that is before the state board, the Metro Board of Equalization. We have the Department of the Personalty. As I stated before, we provide the valuation of taxable properties in Davidson County. And that's both residential and commercial. But when you think about commercial, when you think about businesses, we also by law must assess the value of the personalty, which is the items that are used in order to operate your business. And under the state law, they are assessed at 30% of value. So with that being said, we have a Department of Personalty that even if you don't own the property itself, you're leasing, but you have a business, which, my colleague, Clerk Wynn provide the business license, then we want to get that information and ensure that we go out and assess that property regarding the personalities that they have, the computers, the chairs, the tables, all of that. And all of that has a value. And it is at a market value of every year. They have to report every year. So we have a department that follows all of that. We have more than 25,000 business accounts. We're probably at 27,000, I'm sorry, 27,000 plus business accounts that we assess and establish a value, which is self-reporting from the property owner. So we have that department that follows that assessment that also plays a role in the budget. We have the department of our residential appraisers, and we have the department of our commercial appraisers. So everybody has a role. All has to be done by a certain time of the year because the law says so, the state law says so. And we are definitely working right now on the 2025 reappraisal as we speak.
So if a residential appraiser, let's do the residential first and then we'll do commercial.
Sure.
Residential appraiser goes out. How do they determine? You've talked a little bit about it in your answers, but so an individual goes out. How do they look at each home individually? How do they do? That's a lot of homes that you all are responsible for. A lot
Absolutely.
of how do they make the determination? Are they actually visually looking at what's going on in a neighborhood? Are they looking at each house? Are they looking at improvements from the last time? How do they actually do this?
Yes, we are doing visual inspection. As I stated before, in the first 3 years of a reappraisal, we are doing visual inspections. So it takes that long to look at all of them. I mean, we also use, other certain software to help us see some of the properties, which is our CAMA system, the computer mass appraisal system, that computerized mass appraisal system that help us to be able to see some of the properties, whether it be through Google, what have you. But we have to look at every parcel, every property, because the law requires us to do so. Now, once we do that, there are some other things that help us in reference to improvements. If you were adding on an improvement to your beautiful home that I can see there, Vice Mayor, that you've never invited me to for dinner and nothing like that, but that's okay. That's another story for another day. What we do is that when you're doing those improvements, you have to go and get a permit. So when you get that permit, we get that information from the codes department. That's so very important, why we have to have a great relationship with codes. So once someone is going to say add an expansion to your home, there must be a permit that must be taken out. That's required by law. Now, do people actually do improvements without getting a permit? Absolutely. And that's when your Gladys Kravis plays a great role. Looking out the window, what is Vice Mayor doing over there to his property? And why is he able to do that? I think that's encroaching upon my property. Those type of things happen in all of the 850 neighborhoods that we have identified in Davidson County. So when we get that permit, we do what we call working the permit. And we work that permit in reference to what is it that the property owner is doing. It's not a secret that you're doing the improvement. It should not be a secret because the law requires you to take out a permit. Even if you were to put up a ceiling fan, did you know that you are supposed to take out a permit?
I don't know how to put up the ceiling fan, so there you go. All right. So,
Yeah, well, the reason why is because it's electrical. And if you do something that causes the house to burn, it could burn the next person's home and the next person's home, thereby making you responsible. That's why it's important that they make sure you're getting people that are knowledgeable and has the skills to do the type of improvement to your home. So we do follow the permits. That helps us to know what is happening there. And there are other departments that also provide us with information, but on the most part, it's the permits that comes from the codes departments that individual homeowners and business owners, they take out in reference to what they're doing at their property. So we have to look at all of them.
so if somebody pulls a permit to add a bathroom,
Okay.
They want to add a bathroom.
Absolutely.
You will see the permit, so you'll see that.
Mhm.
But how is there kind of a standard increase in value for adding a bathroom, for redoing a kitchen, that type of thing that you're seeing? And
Yeah,
does that go into play into how the property is appraised?
It does. I mean, we look at manuals like Marshall and Swift, because they have a standard for adding a fireplace, adding a garage, adding a driveway. There are some standards that are already set so that we can keep up what's going on nationally and what's going on locally. So we have to look at certain type of valuation books that provide us with that standard information. So yes, we look at that. We also look at, the income approach and the cost approach and the sales approach. Those are the three approaches to value. We have to utilize those three different approaches. So they are not only just best practices, but they're also what the national standard looks at. Even a fee appraiser that is helping you to be able to get a refinance on your home or a lower mortgage rate. They're looking at those three approaches to values. You can't always use the sales approach. That is where you have comparable sales in the neighborhood where you are located. And so those comparable sales is what we look when we are looking at the subject property. We're using the comparable sales to say, this is what a property is getting on the open market. The person over here around the corner got $100,000. So around the corner got 150. Someone else got 200,000. We make the adjustment for the subject property in reference to the square footage. We make the adjustments to the subject property if it does not have what the sales property have, so that we can dwindle down that equity and that fair market value. So yes, we have to use those type of tools in our toolbox in order to arrive at value. We look at those, and then we also look at things like the Marshall and Swift books as well. So when you talk about the cost approach, that is what it cost to you to rehab that property fully. You know, a lot of times cost approach is utilized on historical property because sometimes you have the, it's the word I want to say, it's not an equity, but you know, the way a door was hung back in the 20s. It may not be hung that way today. It's not called an equity. It's called something else. My mind is not getting there yet. My coffee is not going fully through my veins right now. But no, you know, we have to look at what would be replacement costs of that property. So that's the cost approach in reference to arriving at value. And then the income approach, we are, you know, use for primarily businesses, of course. You know, you're looking at revenue receipts, loss, expenses, you know, and that is playing a role right now as a result of the pandemic. You know, you got the hotels that have not been doing very well. You got the retails that many of them have closed, for that matter. And I won't say many, but some have closed. I haven't taken account, but some have closed. But when you think about the income approach, we have to get that type of information from them in order to establish value, because the model of the income approach requires it. So yes, it is a very critical work that we do, but it does require us to utilize tools in our toolbox that are nationally known and best practices that we must incorporate.
So, so the same type of thing for commercial evaluation as well. Are you looking at those? I know that you talked about how, particularly in terms of what they have inside, but in terms of the valuation of the property itself, how do you do a commercial piece of property?
We could use one or two. We could use all three approaches to value: sales, income, and cost approach. We could use sales approach. You know, there are commercial properties in Davidson County. Sometimes the sales don't come to us as clear, but we do look at sales. You know, there are properties of commercial that is similar to a property that have sold across town. We look at that. For instance, how about Lowe's? You know, not that the Lowe's is not doing good, or Home Depot. I mean, I think all of us in this pandemic has seen that hole in the wall, has decided that we want to be a little bit further away from our spouse. So let's do some improvements, you know, or something like that. But we have those type of what we call big box that are, you know, that are changing. They're transforming. When you think about my church, which we don't assess, of course, because churches we don't assess, it was a strip mall, okay? You know, and that was a sale within itself. How would a strip mall that is being sold, what is the value it would bring on open market? So we look at other strip malls that have sold that look similar to it. That's where the sales approach come into play. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So any of those approaches could be used for a commercial property.
Okay. And then for purposes of what's inside, and again, how do you do that? That's information that comes in.
It is okay. That is one of the self-reporting approaches. So the personality, everything inside, we allow the business owner to report to us. Then we look at what you call appreciation of the equipment. Like for instance, a paper mill. I mean, let's say a printing company. Okay, they do a lot of printing. Let's take, you know, Kinko's. They got big printing equipment in their facility. So that printing equipment age over time. That's called depreciation, of course. So there is a standard depreciation that occurs to that printer and any other printer and large equipment that they have. So we have to look at those type of things as well.
A lot of it is self-reporting. How do you make sure that an entity is reporting correctly?
Yeah, that is a very good question. Just came up right now. Audits. We have to do audits. So part of making sure, just because you told us doesn't mean it's true. Now, not that we don't trust our citizens of Davidson County. That's not the case. But we have to do our due diligence. It's called a checks and balance. So when you tell us you got 5 printing machines, we're going to come out there and find out you got 10.
Yeah. But you can't audit everybody.
That normally does not happen. You know, I'm just saying. But that's the example that we must give. We have to do our due diligence in reference to what you're reporting to us. So we do audits, and we also utilize vendors to help us do audits. one of the vendors is Tax Management and Associates, and they help us to do the audits of the more than 27,000 accounts that we have to oversee. So yeah. So
Okay, but it's not, you can't audit everybody. So
no, we
select
can't. There's a
audit,
sampling.
there's just a sampling, and it's
It's
kind
a
of
sampling.
I assume it's a random sampling. Is that what it is?
She won't give us.
And-
Yes, as you want, yes. As we stated before, we could do every one of them if you just give us a more employee friends. So,
Yeah, I'll talk to the council the next time I see him. Okay,
hey.
so do you tell, I mean, a random sampling, do you just show up at somebody's door, at a company's door and go,
Pretty
hey,
much.
okay,
pretty
so
much.
you
Pretty
don't tell
much
them you're coming. You don't tell them you're coming so they can hide the other 5 printers.
Well, how else are we going to find out about those 10 printers versus 5? Okay.
All right, just
However, we do require do the state law. Like for instance, I use the one vendor name that I mentioned. They notify the company and let them know, hey, we need to see your books. And we realize that, information may be proprietary. So we understand that. We're not going to share with anyone else, but you do know that we are a public government. So therefore, there are some things that is public record. But we do take that stance in reference to being, taking a proprietary approach to it. But we do ask to see their books, and we do flag certain accounts when there's been false reporting, because it is against the law.
Okay. All right. So take us to the step where the appraisals come out. So we get a notice in the paper, and maybe just for everybody's benefit, explain basically what that sheet is telling us for a residential thing. What does it tell you? And then I'm going to follow up with how you appeal. But
Okay.
when we get something, it's telling us what our reappraised, the value of our property is.
Market value, or what, meaning that this is what we believe your property will bring on an open market.
Okay.
And it's as of 1/1 of that year. Yes.
Okay.
The value is effective as of, even though you get the notice around April, May, if it's not appealed and changed, is effective 1/1 of that year of the reappraisal. So let's just say, Vice Mayor, you didn't appeal your values. I don't know, because I don't go through and look at everybody who appeals. I mean, I don't have that type of time. We got a lot more fish to fry around here. I trust the system because it's working, but I can look. My point is that if you did not appeal your values and the time to appeal has passed, that value is effective as of 1/1 of 2021.
Okay.
Okay. So there you have it on that part. So you
Okay.
get
So
notice. You get
how
that
long,
notice.
how long does that appraised value stay on my property?
It stays for 4 years until the next reappraisal, unless 2 things may happen in that time period. One, you improve the property, and that means there's a permit that has come out. That means we're going to make another visual inspection as you are coming along in that improvement to your property. And by the time you complete it, based on the time you complete it, it'll be on the tax roll, okay, according to the law. But the other thing, unfortunately, is if you were to have, God forbid, a fire, or either, as we've seen, a flood, 2010 flood, or we've seen tornadoes, the property is no longer there. And if that occurs prior to August the 31st, prior to September 1, then there is a timeline when it can be returned to the tax roll or the assessment roll to be taxable. We have to see when the property owner has completed 50% of it, things like that. So we do have to look at that. So when you get your value, it is market value, but you may disagree that it's not market value. And that's where the appeals process plays a role. You had mentioned that there is the announcement is in the paper. Well, we do an announcement in the paper, but we send those new values directly to the property of record. So if you got your notice, it told you that you were worth $5 million. That's exactly what you're worth, Vice Mayor, $5 million.
Thank you, Vivian.
But you may believe that no. I'm not worth 5 million, I'm worth 3 million. But guess what? We've had people say, no, I'm worth more than that. So they get that opportunity to provide us with the evidence of whether in the appeals process at the informal level, that is informally with our office, or not right now at the Metro Board of Equalization, which is an independent board whose members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I'm going to get into the
Sure.
appeals process with you.
Okay.
But let me ask you first, just go back, because obviously we've been through quite a bit in the last year and a half.
Oh,
Go
yes,
to-
it's been a challenge.
Yeah, go to the tornado. So I was driving around on 16th Avenue North
Yes.
the other day, and I remember driving on 16th Avenue North
Mhm.
right after the tornadoes, where it
Yes.
smashed into homes. And
Mhm.
so how does that work? So let's hope we don't have any more tornadoes for a while here. But
Oh, yes. No more tornadoes, please,
Yeah.
Lord. Bless us.
for an individual who owned a house, who had it, just smashed, and
Mhm.
we had them in North Nashville, East Nashville, Hermitage, Donaldson, they were everywhere.
Everywhere. Yes.
So what happened? So that you still own the property, but
Yes.
the house is seriously damaged in different
Right.
stages.
Correct.
So do people still have to pay property taxes based upon, how does that change if the house has been damaged? And how do you find that out?
Okay. Well, okay. So I'm going to give you the two scenarios, 2010 flood and the recent storms we've had. In the
Okay.
2010 flood, the values, there was a special, because the reappraisal was in 2009. Okay. So 1 year later, everything goes wacko. Okay. It's crazy. Values are not what it was stated in 2009. What happened then, as you remember, as we was on council, there was a special reappraisal that was done that the state of Tennessee allowed this office to do. And the values were adjusted accordingly, okay? So in reference to market value, going for that, and that was something that special was done at the permission of the Tennessee General Assembly, all right? So
Okay.
now moving forward in 2020, all right, reappraisal in 2021, we've had the pandemic, we've had all these other things that happen, and the tornado that happened at the very top of the reappraisal year. Crazy. 2020 year. So there's a time when property must be, there's a time when we take a look at the status of the property of how much repair has been done. So that time is by September 1. Now, if a roof was taken off, on the most part, you're going to have the roof repaired, you're back in your home. But if there is substantial damage, there in the law says 50 plus 1%, if there is a substantial damage and it's not repaired by September 1, then we are required to make an adjustment. That's one of the tools in our toolbox to make that adjustment in reference to what was given to you prior. And we do that. That's called a prorate roll.
Okay.
The other part of that, the same thing with personalty. If the equipment, computers, tables, everything, cars that we use to transport, they all were damaged. So it is a yearly report, and we're going to probably get a report and say all of that is gone, can't be repaired, can't be restored, and we are allowed to make that adjustment. So timing has everything to do with it. But when the property is gone, meaning the improvement itself, when we look and see that only the land is there, and we've gotten that report, we've gotten the report from codes because they had to go out and take a look at some properties structure that was still standing, what amount of damage is on the structure. So when codes go out, and when they went out, they gave us the list of those, and that kind of made our job a little bit easier. And we went back out to make sure that they did if they done an improvement as well. But what I'm saying is that the building is gone, so guess what? You're only going to pay taxes on the land. Now, what is the land worth? Okay, the land didn't get damaged by the storm. You still own it. You can still build on it. You can still improve upon it. So the land still has a value, and that value is still compared in most likely the sales approach. What can your property, your land, bring on an open market? It doesn't make the land $1. the land is still valuable. If your property is on Second Avenue, your land is still valuable. You can still build, but you don't have the building. So we make the adjustment in reference to the building. Like for instance, I just said Second Avenue, the unfortunate bombing of what occurred. We reduced the property almost down to almost like 90 to 99%. Okay, but that material that's there is still a value. It's not worth much, but it's still a value. So we do have to make those visual inspections, use reports that's provided to us that shows that the building is gone. So we know those buildings are not going to be there. They're gone. So we're going to go straight to the land value for that. We already know when we go out, there's not going to be a new building going up. But we have gone out where there have been buildings that were gone. They're doing a pretty good job in getting them up. Like for instance, the bank that's on that's over on off of Jefferson Street, Rosa Parks Boulevard. They're coming along. They're working out of a
I think it's Regions Bank.
Regions, yeah. But they're coming along and improving, and we're looking at that. And so as we get closer to August the 31st, we're going to see where they are. And then of course, we'll do our due diligence on the probate road.
Okay. So tell me, and this may apply to both situations, but so we get our notice in the paper, and it has to be sent out, what, April 1st? Is that when it comes out?
You get your notice you get it by May 1st. May 20th.
So
May
I
20th.
get it.
May is a major month. May is a major month.
Okay, so I get it, and I'm going like, this is crazy. This is way too high or whatever.
Yeah.
What are my appeal rights? What am I supposed to do to appeal, and how does that process work?
Okay, so I'm gonna give a rule of thumb for the listening audience and for anyone else who may watch this later on.
Yeah.
You get the tax bill in October from my colleague, Trustee Gilmore. Okay, it is at that point that you can appeal. You can appeal every year, Vice Mayor. Every year you can appeal. So if you miss the opportunity to appeal in the reappraisal year, you can appeal next year. And by rule of thumb, that kind of opens up with our office right after you get that tax bill in October, October 15th, something like that, but it's in October. But normally we just kind of open up the informal status in November. But now let's just talk about the reappraisal though, because that's a non-reappraisal year. That's a little bit different. In the reappraisal year, you got that notice in April, okay? You had the opportunity to appeal that value for a whole month up to May. That's the informal review. And that's where you tell us a little bit more about your property that we may not know. I mean, you could have had a kitchen fire. You could have possibly unfortunately had your insurance lapse, okay? And you were not able to repair it. Well, that damage is still there. You can say, my home is not worth what you're saying it's worth because I have been unable to repair my home. And we want to hear that information. We may have your square footage off because on your profile of your property, it says your square footage, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, all of that. And there's some information that may be on that profile that we don't have right. I mean, 264,000 parcels. Is it possible that we can have something wrong? Of course. And then mass appraisal, and a mass appraisal, which is not a fee appraisal, it is reestablishing equity. And at the end of the day, what that means is some are going to be high, some are going to be about the same, and some are going to be, okay? So there may be some that are high, all right? So that gives the property owner the opportunity to share with us, and they can use our website in doing so, looking at sales comparables and what have you, share with us why they believe their property value is not what we stated, okay? So in the informal review is exactly that. Informal review, come and talk with us. Let's see how we can come to the medium of agreeing of your value. And we're not going to compromise anything on our part, our integrity. We're going to look at what you have. And if what you have is not in line with what we know as appraiser, it will be a no change. But if you bring something to our attention that we did not know, of course, we're going to adjust it and, make the appropriate adjustment. Now, then after that, you have the opportunity to appeal your value before the Metro Board of Equalization. an independent board. Some people thought that the Metro Board was our board, this office board. No, it's not. It is an independent board, the same way the State Board of Equalization is independent. They make their decision based on information that's brought to them before from the property owner. It's not a adversarial type of, well, it is in the sense of its structure. I mean, it's the property owner that is appealing our value, but we're not sitting there like we would be in Judge McClendon's office, a court, you know, you having your appellate and you having your defendant and all that going on. It's not like that. But we allow that person to bring that information forward. Now, if we disagree with the decision of the independent board, we appeal that decision of what the Metro Board of the Independent Metro Board of Equalization has made. We appeal it to the State Board of Equalization. And that's what we did for the adjustment that was done on like Opry Mills. So, you know, Opry Mills was reduced by 50 million. We didn't agree with it. And, you know, matter of fact, we felt it probably could have been higher, but we adjusted. We won that appeal. And the same thing in reference to the properties on Cowan Street. Now we could have done more, but we need more human resource here in our appeals and modeling division.
I've heard that 3 times now. Okay. So,
well, you know what? When my mother said, if you heard it more than, when my mother and my grandmother said, if you hear more than twice, there might be some truth to that. So,
okay, I get it.
okay.
So
You know, there's one more opportunity. Matter of fact, almost 2 opportunities for the property owner. If you miss your opportunity to appeal to the Independent Metro Board of Equalization, or the Metro Board of Equalization did not rule in your favor in reference to what you wanted, or no change at all, you can appeal then to the Independent State Board of Equalization. Particularly, I want to point out that for commercial property owners, they can go from skip over the Metro Board of Equalization, Independent Metro Board of Equalization, go straight to the Independent State Board of Equalization. They could do that, but they must stop here first, or stop at the Metro Board of Equalization first and say, hey, I want to go straight to the State Board. And then they can go straight to the State Board. Of course, for someone who felt like they didn't get the opportunity to appeal, like a residential property owner, felt like they did not get the opportunity to appeal before the Independent Metro Board of Equalization, it could be based on like they were in the hospital, something like that. So it's the State Board will have to make that decision, you know, allow them to appeal, and they'll send them back to us.
But I can appeal, every year. So I get my
every year.
And what are the dates for? So if I get my notice of appraisal every 4 years, I get it, and then I can appeal. Then I get that. But when does the cycle start again? When can I appeal? If I didn't do it this year and I go, you know what, I really should have appealed. When can you do it again?
Okay, I'm sorry that I was not clear. So I'm gonna say this again, but I'm sorry that I wasn't clear because you would have caught it. You're a very smart man, you would have caught it. So the rule of thumb in a non-appraisal year is that as soon as you get that tax bill from Trustee Gilmore, you can appeal right then.
Okay.
We do have a date that you can start the appeal, November 1st. You're gonna get that tax bill October 15th. So just start working in your mind, okay, somewhere I'm gonna get the opening of the informal. The opening of the informal is open back up again. And then around about November 1st, but I just want to tell for the listening audience, think along the line that once I get that tax bill, then I have the opportunity to appeal my value.
Okay.
Next year, and that's for the next year. I'm glad that clarification out for the next year. It won't change your tax bill that you've already received. That is a cake that has been baked. Okay. You got the tax bill because of the fact your value was not appealed or it never changed. So now the trustee can do its responsibility, and that is to mail tax notices and collect the taxes.
Okay. All right. So we've got, checking my time, we've got about 5 minutes left. I want you to talk about your assistance programs, particularly for seniors. There's like an elderly relief program. What is available out there if people really do need some help with their taxes?
Absolutely. But let me tell you, there's one thing I got to stop you. Those programs are put in place by the state of Tennessee legislators, and they gave the authority for those programs to administered by the trustee.
Okay.
It would be the trustee's office that would administer the program and what have you. But let me just say this very briefly, and never to take away the responsibilities of the trustee. I'm of a believer, a leader, that is everyone's job to share the good news about how a person can get assistance. So as you know, Vice Mayor, when we opened up the appraisal and talked about the appeals process and when a person can appeal, I shared that information with you and say, hey, tell
That's
that
right.
to your constituents. Push that, drive that home. We want them to know and be transparent in reference to what we do. So when it comes to those three programs, which is the tax freeze, the tax relief, and the tax deferral, which I think is a world's best kept secret, meaning that you can defer your tax payment till either the day you pass away or until the day you win the lottery and no longer have to struggle to pay that tax payment, or you decide that you don't want to give it to your no good kids because they don't want to help you pay the taxes. So I've found some money somewhere to make sure I can stay in my home. And I'm being comical about it, but it's a reality. So those three programs, which allows you to be able to, one, get assistance on your tax payment, which is the tax freeze. Okay, excuse me, the tax relief, whether you are a veteran or the widow of a veteran or disabled, that's the tax freeze. Or tax relief. And then you got the tax freeze that freezes your tax rate at the lowest tax rate, which is a great assistance, being that we just came through the lowest tax rate in Davidson County history, and now the third lowest tax rate in Davidson County history. So it depends on when you froze it, okay? And then the tax deferral lets you, as I told you before, defer the taxes until you're able to pay them and you stay in your home. So it'd be a great thing to invite, Trustee Gilmore and let her talk a little bit more about that, because I think that all of us can play a role in reference to helping our brothers and sisters, property owner, residential property owners, be able to get on these programs, because sometimes you don't know when to do it or how to do it. The deadline for the tax freeze and relief is April the 5th. So that's coming up soon. And I think you're going to soon hear from Trustee Gilmore talking about that. If there's someone that's listening right now, you can call the 615-862-6330 and speak with that office about the timeline of when to apply, what's needed to apply, so they can get ready to do that and send that information in. If you're already, I do believe that they send you something just to, requalify, pretty much, making it easier for them. So that's a great topic, and definitely something that we need to have those tools in our toolbox. And one more thing too, that we also play a role in doing when we were council members. Of course, we approve the monies that's being sent down from the state in order to operate the tax relief program, and ensuring that people don't leave money on the table, because the more people that don't qualify and get on those programs, that's money left on the table. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure people get assistance. But there's a program that's offered by the Metro Action Commission, and they will assist up to $500. That's something we definitely have a direct role in, that comes from local government directly, and they assist up to $500 on the tax payment. So we need to be talking about these programs. My understanding that the Metro Action Commission look at every situation case by case, and they don't look at the fact that you're just totally behind, but if there's the need. So that's something that, you can, of course, bring on board to talk more about, but it's a great tool in the toolbox. And of course, the housing fund and what they're doing, that's something a little bit outside of us, but definitely in the assistance toolbox that we need to talk more about. So, yeah.
All right. So a last question, because we're just
you don't have the last question. Don't do that, because we got that one question about Lady Godiva.
No, I'm not asking that one.
But you know what? Seriously, that was really a pretty good question. But this is your show. I'm going to follow your lead, but that was real good. I love that question. It made me think. I like to be able to be challenged in my thinking. It was a great question.
Well, so what the assessor of property, Wilhoite, is talking about is we get questions during the week, and there was one that referenced Lady Godiva. So here's the last question. So a lot of great information. I'm so appreciative of the fact that you were on here, but lots of information. So if people are confused, if people are, I wonder if I qualify for that, or I don't fully understand what that program is, what's the best place to call to find that out? I know they can call your office, they can call the trustee's office, but if they're just confused and they can't even figure out what the offices do, what what should they do to find out?
Well, of course, to learn about those programs, they can go to the new website that's been revamped of the www.nashville.gov/trustee. And you'll be able to find the information there. In reference to what we do, of course, our website is www.padctn. PA, Property Assessor, DC, Davidson County, TN, Tennessee.org. So you can go there and get all this information, the appeals and what have you. It's going to be a little bit outdated because of the fact we have gone past those dates. So it's still there for you to take a look at and to kind of get a process about how this works. So I implore you to definitely and encourage you to go there and learn a little bit about, not only about, you know, the deadlines to appeal and what have you, but also learn about just what we do. Information regarding the independent Metro Board equalization is all there. And we're looking forward to rolling out this amazing new website that's going to give you even more information that can help you in reference to understanding your property. Right now, you can take a look at your property, your next door neighbor's property, what's sold down the street. You know, the Greater Realtors Association applaud that we have a great website, and we're going to do more to make it even more powerful for the people that we serve. You know, Vice Mayor, I really think you ought to talk about Lady Godiva. I mean, I do want to tell the listening audience that I do not plan on, you know, prancing around naked around the courthouse. I will not do that. Like Lady Godiva did, in order to get a better system of evaluating property. Even though she played a great role in doing it, I would never have done what she did. But you know, passion, you can't pay for it.
Thank you, Vivian Wilhoite, for all that information. We are out of time.
Oh, wow. No, I was just getting started. It's Saturday.
We were just getting started, but there's a lot of stuff to do today. I will remind the viewers and everybody else, please be safe. Those numbers are going up really, really fast.
Yes.
Wear
your mask.
Very careful.
Wear your mask.
Get vaccinated. Encourage people. I know there's a lot of, you know, issues on all kinds of sides, but you know, the scientific evidence says the best way to do this is to get vaccinated.
Yes.
That protects people, and wear your mask. And you'll see us on the council. We are wearing masks again.
Perfect.
Because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. Vivian Wilhoite, thanks for being my guest today. You've been great.
You.
Everybody, thanks for listening. Next week, Council Member Sharon Hurt will be on. She's my guest. Should be an interesting conversation. We look forward to that. Everybody have a great weekend. And
can we get a screenshot, please?
A screenshot?
Yeah.
You can do one right now.
Okay, how we do it?
I don't know.
Don't go anywhere. Okay, here we go.
I'm not leaving.
Okay. Okay. Yay, good. I'm glad you showed yourself good. We're trying to find it. I'm here.
Screen.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
You ready?
Is that it?
You ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Thank you, colleague Gwen. I think we got it.
Did you get it? No.
Cool.
Control.
Hold on. One more. We
Everybody smile.
Get it.
It said airplane mode. Oh, let me do it this way. Hold on. I got a better way. Let me do it the old fashioned way. Snip it. Snipping tool. There. Here we go.
There you go.
Ready? Smile. Got it. We got it.
All right. Everybody be safe. Vivian, thanks. You all have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Okay.
You too now. Mhm.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.